Part 2. Second thought. Impermanence. The three realms are as impermanent as autumn clouds. The births and deaths of beings are like a dance performance, flashing by like lightning in the say. The lifespan of beings races swiftly like a waterfall over a steep mountain. To understand impermanence correctly, we must acknowledge the fact that we are all going to die. We all know that we will die, and we all have a tendency to obscure that awareness and to hope that we will not. Our awareness of the certainty of death and the hope of being the one exception give rise to laziness. Laziness arises when there is some hope that either we can ignore death or we won't have to go through it when the time comes. Laziness prevents our precious human qualities from being put to use. The antidote to this and other habitual tendencies is the contemplation of impermanence. Rest in the mind on reminders of impermanence. We can see that everything we're attached to or hold dear is subject to change, the great impermanence of death. The Buddha taught that death comes because of life. In the same way, sickness comes where there is health, old age comes where there is youth, destruction comes where there is construction. This logic establishes the law of existence itself, and meditators must not only understand this, they must be able to put it into practice. The actual fact of death cannot be denied. Even individuals endowed with a precious human existence are subject to impermanence and death. No matter how far we travel in the 10 directions, we won't find anyone who has not experienced this. The simplest mind can understand that nothing remains the same. There is constant generation, degeneration, transformation, and change. All of our experiences of people, places, and other outer phenomena, as well as inner thoughts and feelings, are impermanent. A mind that does not genuinely understand this provides the ground for distraction and habitual patterns. It takes a genuine sense of urgency to use this very moment to bring our positive endowments to fruition. For this, we must actually have some feeling for the experience of impermanence. Reflecting on the impermanence of all phenomena should truly give rise to a sense of fear, not a paralyzing fear that keeps us from generating positive tendencies or bringing our potential to fruition, but a genuine sense of urgency in the face of impermanence. Just as change and impermanence arise in infinite ways, so too death arises. Death arising as impermanence can be caused by any number of things. There may not be any one cause that disrupts a life or causes death. There are also many different experiences of impermanence given the various lifespans of sentient beings. The Tibetan tradition talks about lifespans from thousands of years long to those in the degenerate age that can be as short as 10 years, a few days, or less. Contemplate the infinite numbers of beings that are going through a vast variety of experiences based on the fruition of their karma. If the urgency of impermanence still does not arise, think of examples from your personal experience. Think of all the people you've known who are no longer with you today. How many of these relatives or friends have actually passed away? In The Worth of My Perfect Teacher, Khandro Rinpoche talks about all of the realized teachers and great meditators who nevertheless have been subject to impermanence and are no longer alive today. When you light your shrine and hang beautiful pictures of your teachers, keep in mind that impermanence hits everyone, even those to whom you've done prostrations. Then relate this understanding to the impermanence of other circumstances in your life. We can see that every movement is a step closer to death. Simple acts such as eating, walking, or sitting down bring us closer to the exhaustion of these experiences and closer to death. We may tell ourselves that a human lifespan is 70 or 80 years, but each month and year marks the passage of time. And regardless of our lifespan, death can strike at any moment. We could calculate the time that has passed and the time that remains, but even if we were sure we had that much time left, there is less of it with each passing moment, and it's not possible to any time. Given the fact of ever less time and our approaching old age when we will truly experience impermanence, why would we still succumb to distractions and hesitations? When we look back at the time of death, the experience of this life will seem like a dream. And just as with our nighttime dreams, it will seem useless to have put so much effort into it. The fear we experience in a dream is gone when we wake up. Feeling afraid was just an unnecessary exertion of effort, causing us to lose sleep. When we look back on our lives at death, the amount of time we spent in hesitation, aggression, ignorance, selfishness, jealousy, hatred, self-preservation, and arrogance will seem like an equally useless exertion of energy. So, be able to regard all these illusory thoughts and concepts as dreams. Within this illusory existence, what, if anything, is the logic behind any stubbornness, distraction, hesitation, or habitual emotions of aggression, desire, selfishness, and jealousy? What is the use of holding on to these useless emotions within impermanence? Impermanence is the nature of everything. Contemplation. Begin your contemplation with the awareness that even the ground you are sitting on is subject to change. Ask yourself if you have ever seen or met any sentient being on, above, or below this earth who has not experienced death. If the answer is no, sit in meditation with the awareness that you too will experience impermanence. Even your view and understanding and all the effort you put into thinking about things, beneficial or not, distracted or awake, is impermanent. Contemplate the impermanence and death of everything inside and outside you as much as possible. Then think of all the time wasted in distractedness, non-awareness, hesitation, and sleep, and in simply waiting for the right circumstances. Add to that the number of years that have already passed and the number of years you will spend in such states in the future. How much time do you actually have left to regard this life as a dream? Impermanence lurks in all conceivable and inconceivable causes. An outer cause, such as medicine, could be life-sustaining, or the cause of death. Natural elements such as earth, water, fire, or wind, and other external phenomena such as mountains and trees could cause one's death. Inner circumstances such as illness and our own doubts, hesitations, and thoughts themselves can arise as the cause of death. All such outer and inner phenomena have the full potential to cause impermanence and death. Impermanence is the fruition of all of the impermanent causes, or karma, we've created. The Buddha himself explained that everything that originates from a cause, every perception, movement, and form, must inevitably be left behind at the moment of death. Other than our own karma, we take nothing with us at the moment of death. No matter how strong our grasping and attachment, we cannot take our material wealth, physical body, friends, relatives, teachers, retinues, or disciples. No matter how many dear ones surround us in this life, wanting never to be separated from us. No matter what our rank or power, no matter how much effort we've put into cultivating a home, a position, or knowledge, oratorical and debating skills, none of it can be brought into the experience of death. Trying to maintain anything at the moment of death adds nothing to our time or happiness, and it does not allow for the simplicity of letting go. It does not allow us to have a sense of accomplishment at the time of death, or to be the cause of happiness for anyone else. Understanding this, why do we still grasp at material possessions and all our other attachments? Grasping and attachment can survive only in a mind where there is still some hope. Maybe someday it will be possible to take a little something with me, if not these samsaric things, at least a little something Buddhist. My devotions, teachers, teachings, ritual objects. Nothing, however, can be brought into death other than the simple cause and effect of our accumulated karma and the transcendence of our mind and view, to the extent that view is truly useful. The wisdom of discernment. In the Buddhist sutras, we find that the Buddha's students requested him not to enter into Mahaparinirvana. At that point, the Buddha gave his most essential teaching on the experience of death. The essence of the instruction is this: everything that is born dies. Everything that is generated goes through degeneration and destruction. We can do no greater harm to ourselves than not to think about impermanence. Where impermanence is not properly understood, everything samsaric becomes important and a seemingly reasonable cause to accomplish, when in fact life is as fragile as a bubble. We cannot really say whether the next moment will bring the experience of the next moment or the next life. In the time between inhaling and exhaling, we cannot guarantee that breath will not stop. The causes of impermanence and death are many. At this very moment, we could do something to cause destruction or death to arise. We cannot really plan ahead as far as tomorrow, let alone the next 10 or 20 years. If the mind is obscured by ignorance at the time of death, it will create more ignorance. If we respond to the experience of impermanence with complete openness and selflessness, however, our understanding will be the foundation of liberation from suffering. Contemplating impermanence gives rise to the wisdom of discernment. With this, we can truly discern between useful activities that bring about genuine goodness and useless activities that are of no benefit to anyone. Seeing the enormous amount of time and energy we spend in useless activities, we can turn our mind toward Dharma, which is an activity that is truly fruitful and beneficial for sentient beings: contemplation. In such a fragile and changing existence, what distraction, laziness, or ignorance is important enough to dismantle the awareness needed to rest in your fundamental nature? Contemplating impermanence, focus your mind on this. If death occurs at this moment, what is most essential? What will truly benefit yourself and others? Will any of the concepts, hesitations, or distractions that you allow to rule your life truly make any sense at the moment of death? And if holding on to such things won't help you or anyone else at that moment, why would any sensible human being with such precious endowments continue to be enslaved by them? At this moment, you have the potential for control. You can take this opportunity to bring your potential to fruition. To do this, you must let go of any stubbornness and grasping at notions of solidity where there is none, and bring whatever arises into genuine awareness, inseparable from Buddha mind, your enlightened essence. It is not only in death that we see constant change. Time is constantly changing. Thoughts are constantly changing. Constant movement prevents the mind from ever coming to rest with complete certainty that it is not subject to impermanence. Nevertheless, we continue to assume that time is solid, thoughts are solid, our movements are solid, and this self is solid. Mistaking that which is impermanent to be permanent, we come up with a mistaken view, based on which we try to solidify things that are constantly in flux. Time is a simple example of this. We usually think of time in terms of past, present, and future time. Each of these notions requires the existence of one moment that stays still. We base our solid sense of time on a single solid moment called present time, and any other moment is past or future. Proving this, however, is impossible, since there is no such thing as present time. The stream of time is constantly changing and not solid. As soon as we think of the present, it is already past. In the same way, thoughts are constantly in flux. As soon as we think a certain thought and then busily base our judgments on it, its inner essence has already moved on. The movement of the initial thought creates a second thought, and by the time we recognize it, the second thought arises as a third thought, and so on. And what about this seemingly solid self? Nagarjuna describes how even the great and massive civilizations of this earth are completely dismantled, changed, and impermanent as dust particles blown away by the wind. Whole world systems collide and collapse and become extinct. Compared to that, any arrogance based on the seeming solidity of a single, impermanent self would be quite unnecessary and a mark of ignorance. But we have come to believe in the solidity of our emotions and to base our judgments on them. From the belief in a solid self, which can't even be posited from the standpoint of impermanence, grasping and the logic of grasping arise. Because we think we have cause for grasping and an object to grasp, endless displays of selfishness and emotions create further distraction from the fundamental ground. We will continue to generate selfishness and unkindness as long as we maintain some cause. Jealousy has a cause, hatred has a cause, aggression has a cause. These are the depths of ignorance to which the minds of sentient beings can go. Although selfishness has no actual cause or location, we still feel that ultimately somewhere inside there's a secure storeroom where attachment is quietly hidden, and all of the things we want to hold on to are stacked and inventoried. But if everything is in a constant state of flux, what could we possibly find to protect or maintain? And how could we possibly store anything? All of the emotional displays that we try to maintain are nothing but suppositions of mind, a mind that hasn't understood change. Contemplation. Allow your mind to go further into a sense of death arising in each passing moment. Every move you make is an indication of change and impermanence. Each moment you sit in meditation, manifold degeneration, destruction, and change take place. In light of this, any tendency to still feel separate from impermanence and change would be absolute ignorance, which would prevent clear understanding from arising in the mind. Remain in meditation with a genuine awareness of constant impermanence and the urgency arising from this. If impermanence is true, however, we can actually give rise to positive tendencies. If change is the very nature of all outer and inner phenomena, there is no basis for any confidence in a solid self, and no need for any logic to defend or protect it. Why then would we generate anger, for example? Anger is generated solely to protect a self that has to retain its identity and defend its ground, a self that is not really there. Contemplating our various experiences of impermanence, we can understand how unnecessary and useless it is to grasp at a self. At which point genuine selflessness arises, training in awareness. The real intent behind any Dharma practice is to train the mind for the moment of death, so that the moment of death can arise with confidence and without regret in the sense of non-awareness or ignorance. As we develop awareness, we get a better understanding of the very subtle thoughts that constantly shift the mind into non-awareness. Lacking awareness, we are unable to understand impermanence and the emptiness of thought, time, and a self empty in the sense that they cannot be proven to exist. Imposing solidity upon that inherently empty nature, we spend whole lifetimes struggling with ourselves and others. When we look at all the sentient beings living like this, we can truly understand how difficult it is to become free from suffering in the midst of samsara. The only way to free yourself from ignorance is the path of awareness. Training in awareness begins with you. It would be difficult to go outside of yourself to get this message, or to change the mind of anyone else. You are the one endowed with the qualities, teachings, and practices. You are the one with the genuine desire and ability to bring this to fruition. Therefore, you need to be the first one to transcend ignorance. Then and only then can you benefit others. This is the reason we contemplate one impermanence. Knowing that all sentient beings desire happiness, we are unable to generate happiness because of non-awareness. How can we overcome suffering? How can we gain happiness and be the cause of happiness when the basis of our every action is completely contradictory to that? In a single moment, there can be so many stains of ignorance and shades of hesitation. If we're awake enough to recognize these subtle shifts, we will find that the big things we think of as the cause of samsara gross emotions of anger, ignorance, desire, hatred, and so forth are not really the problem. They are second or third-hand results of non-awareness, which is the core essence of distraction. Recognizing that shift is called training the mind. For this, we emphasize training in meditation, see Appendix A. The point of your meditation or devotion or practice of any kind is a clean, precise understanding of the subtle shifts of mind that generate the gross emotions of ignorance, desire, or hatred. Recognizing this, you will be able to maintain clear awareness, contemplation. What matters most in meditation is the quality, not the duration of your practice. You could spend hours in meditation still enveloped in a contaminated view of something to hold on to, an identity to maintain, and the same habitual grasping. This is just pretense, just the form of meditation, and not the genuine transcendence of mind. If you sit for only 5 minutes, see if you can remain within mindfulness and compassion completely free from self-grasping for those 5 minutes. The path of awareness begins with the 4 reminders. Think carefully about impermanence and the preciousness of human existence, and not just in terms of, yes, this is true, yes, that happens. Otherwise, you'll spend your life saying, of course everything is impermanent, and yes, he or she is dead. And of course, I'm not confident that when I breathe out, I'll breathe in again. This kind of belief is not what we are talking about. These are just clues or steps to contemplation. The important thing is to reach a point where our hearts are truly shaken by a genuine sense of fear, in the sense that impermanence arises with every moment. This brings a starkly naked awareness of just how silly this great arrogance is that we have about my life, my views, my understanding, my hopes and fears. When that shift of the heart actually happens, we will glimpse for the first time the real importance of all the teachings and instructions, and from then on, we will not need anyone else to tell us about the truth of impermanence. This is the kind of confidence we need as an antidote to distraction and all its emotional and conceptual displays. It is most unlikely that we will ever understand the real intent of Dharma or practice, however, until our mind matures through proper contemplation of the four reminders. In the Buddhist tradition, the four reminders are contemplated often. You will find some reference to them before every practice session and at the beginning of every single text in all 84,000 tenets and commentaries. The point of contemplating the four reminders is to see who and what we are as human beings. We are completely endowed with enlightened potential, and we completely embody impermanence and karma. This is what we can be proud of, and this is what we can be not so proud of. But this is what we are. It is entirely up to us to work with this, either from the point of view of awareness, which leads to nirvana, or from that of ignorance, which leads to samsara. This is the reasoning behind samsara and nirvana, existence and enlightenment. Because of our inherent Buddha nature, the choice is always ours. The only question is whether we choose the path of wisdom or the path of ignorance. There is no reason for anyone to go willingly into ignorance when there is wisdom. Remaining within wisdom using any support that best brings this about is the life of a Buddhist practitioner. If being spiritual and using spiritual terms inspires you, then by all means add the Buddha and all the Buddhist teachings to your life. If it inspires you to simply be who you are and practice as you are without any spiritual terminology, that's fine too. The essential thing is to get down to using your life properly. Contemplating the preciousness of human life and the impermanence of all things brings us to the next reminder, the suffering of the 6 realms of existence.